My name's Chris Neto. I am the Market Development Manager here at Starin. The person I have with me today, Tim Mackie, who is the Field Systems Engineer at Yamaha Unified Communications, sir. Welcome to the Town Hall. How are you?
Excellent, Chris. Thank you so much for having me. And again, happy holidays to everybody. Thanks for joining us today.
Okay. First, let's get this first question out of the back. What are we looking at behind you before we get into the UC side of the business? What do we got there behind you? What are those two monsters that are peeking over your shoulders?
So yeah, obviously Yamaha means something different to everybody. I think I first became aware of Yamaha when I was a little kid with motorcycles, right? And then, so I've got a few Yamaha motorcycles in here. I have a couple other brands too, but we won't talk about that. But yeah, then I became aware of Yamaha doing drums, guitars, musical instruments, home audio equipment, theater equipment. And then you realize just what a vast company with so many divisions we have. And one of the cool things about the products we have bringing to market in the UC space now is we're leveraging technology from all of those divisions to bring a level of automation and really a next generation in what we have for conferencing audio. So it's an exciting time for sure.
I can't wait till you come out with an amplifier that's 1100 cc's. This is going to be runs on diesel. We want diesel powered amplifiers next. Self running, no power cord, no nothing. Just fire up the generator. Let's go. So, Tim, you've been with Yamaha for how long now?
Sorry, Chris, you caught me taking a sip there. So yeah, I've been with Yamaha for 8 years. I came on board with Revo Labs in 2013, and Yamaha purchased that company, and it became Yamaha Unified Communications ever since then. Yep. So I've been with this company for 8 years.
Yeah, familiar with Revo Labs. We used to use a lot of their wireless microphones in the conference room settings for many years when I was a designer and integrator, and even as an end user tech manager. It was something that we used, especially in the divisible spaces where we never knew how many people were coming in, and the tables were portable and you couldn't lock down the tables with putting down, embedded microphones. So the little Revo Lab microphones were a great option for things that we could not control, such as tables that we couldn't drill into. So it was awesome. Thank you so much again for joining us. So what do you got in store for us today? Can you, let's get right into it. Why not? Let's go.
Yeah, no worries. So we're going to take a look at the new RM-W wireless system. It's a brand new decked microphone system, been out for a couple of months now, been actually selling like hotcakes. I think there's been a bit of a glitch in the market for wireless mics with some supply chain issues. So it's nice to be able to fill that niche. But yeah, we're going to go over that system. We'll take a quick look at the Adecia as a whole and how this fits in, and how this system can be used with your own third-party receivers, transceivers, or DSPs as well.
I have a question. Question already came up in my head. You said the magic word. You said DECT. Tell me what DECT is for the people that need to know.
DECT stands for Digitally Enhanced Cordless Telecommunications. It's a reserved space for specific products in regional markets around the world. In the United States, we use it in the 1.91 to 1.92 gigahertz range. And if you're doing any sort of training or conferencing or UC application microphones, you're going to want DECT, irrespective of the brand. DECT is actually an interesting story. It was developed by Hedy Lamarr, partially, the famous actress from back in, I think, the 20s and 30s. It's based on spread spectrum technology. I think it was based on the piano keys initially. But the concept of DECT is you have multiple channels available. And when the microphone sees any ingress or interference within its channel, it very quickly moves to another channel. So it's a very robust, very reliable transmission method. There's only a few things in the market that actually utilize DECT. Baby monitors use DECT. Cordless home phones use DECT. Plantronics and Jabra headset kind of things where you see in call centers use DECT. You can always tell a DECT headset from a Bluetooth headset, because the Bluetooth headset person can barely get 15, 20 feet away from their desk, where when you have a DECT headset on, you can go 100 feet into the restroom, and you have to be very careful to mute yourself because you have such great range with DECT as well. Yeah. So in the US, we actually have 24 slots in 5 bands, but basically, the premise is you have X amount of mics with a larger amount of channels, so you have some overhead, and then your mics are always going to be available to jump to that available slot. So when people say, I need conference mics, I always want to start with DECT.
I love that because it's not very often in our town halls. Usually in town halls, people come and give us speeds and feeds on what they're bringing. You just gave us a teachable moment. That's like something you can use on the CTS, folks. So jot that information down, rewind, and play that back because that is something that will pop up in your audio tests for people that are out there doing your certs and stuff like that. So thank you very much for that wonderful history lesson and description of what DEC does. So that's it. I'm done. My interruptions are good. Let's go.
Thank you very much. So let me share screen here on my second screen and start my presentation right here. Come on, computer. There we go. So yes, today we're going to talk about the Adecia wireless solution a little bit, but more about focus on the RM-W microphones. And again, this is a brand new 8-channel system. But it's also designed to be not just standalone to use as just a microphone system, but also an auto-discoverable, auto-routable, auto-tuning part of that magic Adecia solution we have. So again, you can use it standalone or within our environment. So here's a quick look at the 3 options that are now available in that environment. We have our RM-CG or ceiling grid microphone, the TT or tabletop microphone, and these are pretty cool. There's actually 4 elements in here and a full DSP within these mics, and then our RM-W. Now, what's unique to this system is we've kind of shifted where the processing happens. Traditionally, if I'd have done this drawing, you'd see, and I'll go to the next page here to kind of illustrate. This is our system, right? And it looks a little different topology-wise than what a traditional conference system has looked like for many, many years. If I'd have drawn this diagram a few years ago, I would have a DSP right in the middle of the diagram. We used to always say the AEC is in the box. From there, I would have amplifiers and speakers attached, microphones coming in, and then a line in and out and a way to dial, whether it was an old-fashioned phone line back in the day, then we transitioned to a SIP line, and now, for example, we're using a USB as a transmit and receive line basically on these video calls. Well, what Yamaha's done that's unique is we've shifted the DSP out of the box into the microphones themselves. So this ceiling grid microphone has the DSP within it, the echo cancellation, the noise suppression, the de-reverberation, the automatic gain control, the dynamic multi-beam tracking is all in there, whether you use this with our processor or without. Same with the table mics. With these mics, they can do auto tracking or put directional beams wherever you want. You can do up to 4 beams in any direction. So really, this mic can be an omni, a multi-directional mic, an auto tracking mic, not your old-fashioned boundary mic for sure. And what should be obvious here is it is a 100% Ethernet-based solution. I remember about 10 years ago in my webinars preaching that one day your entire AV system will ride on the IP network. And here it is. Every single one of these components is powered by our Yamaha PoE Plus switch. But what we want to focus on here is the new WAP. And to be clear, there's a little distinction here. The DSP is built within the WAP. But if you send this mic an echo reference from your processor, you'll get a single Dante line out fully processed. Same with the table mics. But the beauty with the wireless, you send this an echo reference, we'll give you 8 discrete Dante channel outs, 1 for each microphone channel. So it can be used in a much more flexible arrangement outside of our Adecia environment. So that's our solution where you include the mics. And again, with our processor, our controller, you can really mix and match these. We have a 16-channel card in here, so you can do like 4 ceiling mics and a dozen wireless, for example. So very scalable, very flexible solution. But we want to focus on now, by the way, I'm talking to you on the new 12-inch gooseneck, and I'll change cameras and actually do some demos with the different mic styles here in a minute. But here's the basic components of the new system. Now, we will, down the road a ways, have some more form factor mics available. But right now, we have these 4 flavors. We have our 6-inch gooseneck, or the RM-WGL for wireless gooseneck long, our 12-inch, our 6-inch here for wireless gooseneck short. Then we have this fantastic Omni mic with a full open grill and 4 mute buttons around it. This is really a 360-degree pickup mic, right? And then we have a directional where you'll see it's a half grill where you orient towards yourself and it's a single mute button on there. Now, the cool part about this solution, is, again, the WAP is powered from a PoE plus switch. So to add this system, 8-channel wireless mic system to your network, it's a single drop on that network. You just occupy one port. The charger has its own little power supply and communicates wirelessly to the WAP as the mics do. So you can put this anywhere in the room and plug it in locally with just a little wall wart. So that's really helps in the scalability and keeping your port consumption down on that network as well. Interestingly, you can pair more than one charger to these WAPs. So you could station multiple chargers in an environment too. That's a really neat feature that wasn't available in some of the previous platforms. So again, some quick highlights on the system itself. It is decked. We touched on that. It's 1.9, 91 to 92 in the US here. It is fully encrypted, AES 256 encryption. Again, there's a nicer look, a little bit higher graphic on those mics. There's the 4 styles. Now, let's talk about the batteries. We actually have now a new lithium-ion battery in the microphones, and we're guaranteeing at least 20 hours of talk time. I'm getting much more than that in my testing here, but we guarantee at least that on a 3.5-hour charge. But what's really slick, and I'll show you on the camera here as I pick up one of these, we've added a USB-C charging port on each mic base locally. So now you can take that microphone, plug it into an Apple Cube or any USB-C local power source, and the mic stays fully active. So you could literally go 24/7 while the mic's charging and stay being able to utilize the audio on that mic. When you dock the mics on the charger base, they're off, not passing audio at all. But when you plug them in locally to a USB-C charging or a power source, they will stay fully active. So that's a really cool additional feature. You know, back in that Revo day, Chris, a lot of people, we only had 8 hours of charge time on those mics. And that became a concern at the end of a long day with the utilization of the microphones. So well covered on the power side with this solution for sure. Now the WAP has that DSP built within it, 8 channels, and we'll take a quick look. There's full processing for each individual microphone. Maybe you've got one mic on a lectern near a fan and you want to have additional noise suppression. You can do that. We actually also have a low latency mode for just the goosenecks, which will bypass the DSP within the WAP. It treats it then like a dumb microphone system with low latency for you to use in voice lift applications with a third-party processor. But again, some of the keys of decked and the antenna itself, you want to mount it up high. The antenna radiates out of this surface, so you don't want to leave it flat and just put it on top of your rack. You know, you're going to have a null spot around the outside of it if it's flat. But you want to get it up high on the wall or on the ceiling like any wireless access point and try to keep a direct line of sight with your microphones. But again, the AEC, the noise reduction, we do use that patented HVAD, or I think we're going to shorten it to VAD, voice activity detection, is in there. The dereverberation and that full 6-channel equalizer is in there. Again, some touching on that mounting again, make sure it's up high. Now, what's cool about this whole system, if you're deploying multiple of these in a room, within the software, you can actually flash the LED so you can see which WAP you're working with. That works for every piece of the Adecia, by the way. I can flash the LED on any component to see which one I'm actually working with. Again, sure beats writing down the MAC addresses like back in the day. So there's a number of ways to manage or interface with the system itself. One is through our Adecia solution. So when you're using these mics with our controller, you're simply going to log into the controller and just walk through the auto setup wizard. And these are the steps, the screenshots of that process. It really just doesn't get any easier. First, you push a button on the bottom of the charging base to pair it with the charger. And then you're going to have a single button push on the top of the charger base, which pairs all the microphones in sequence. So even the pairing, which used to be a bit of a laborious, monotonous task of pairing the mics one at a time, has been fully automated. So the other way you can manage this system is logging in directly. This is the interface you'll use if you're using these mics without our controller. We'll give you full access to an even more in-depth setup wizard. And one of the first steps is it's going to do a scan of your environment out of the antenna and gives you this heat map and really shows you what available RF space is in there. This is an extremely advanced system. You can even schedule recordings. Maybe you get interference and don't know why. Turns out there's a call center upstairs that 2 o'clock in the morning has overseas activity, that sort of thing. In fact, we can mail this WAP around to our integrators. They can take it out on site ahead of time and use it as a sniffer to go do site surveys ahead of time. So that's a feature that's within the system. And that's the first step of the auto setup wizard. And then from there, it's going to walk you through pairing the microphones, updating firmware if you need to, and then assigning the channels. And then the last thing I want to show here is there's a full open API for this entire system, as well as the WAP and the Adecia. So it's a pretty in-depth command list we have within that control API. So from Crestron, AMX, TechVox, any sort of third-party control systems, any mouse click I can do within the GUI, you can be called up as an API command. You can even change the pickup patterns of mics on the fly with our table mics, for example. So those are the ways to interface and control the system. And again, here's a little bit closer look at that walkthrough. When you first log into the system, and this is with the controller of ours, not logging into the mics directly, but I want to point out here that if you're used to working with the Adecia, now the wireless will be auto-discovered in this process along with all the other microphones as well. So it'll search for the devices. It'll walk you through that wireless setup. You'll name the device, set your region, that sort of thing. Then you'll pair your chargers. Like I said, you can have more than one. Then you'll pair the microphones. It'll check your firmware. You'll identify your left and right speaker. And then that's the beauty of this system. Go get a cup of coffee or be quiet because it's going to play pink noise out of all the speakers in the room. And voila, you're done. So that's the really nice automated, really the next step in generation of what we're going to see in UC conference setup. There's another quick look at the control for those techies that want to see just how the command strings get put together, and a quick example of just how flexible the data can be. Lastly, this is what you will see. There's the complete set of those 7 steps when you go into the microphone WAP directly to set it up for your own DSP. Again, it'll do the analyzer first, then the setting of the times, find the chargers, update the firmware, pair the mics, and that's it. So a quick review. It's got the latest DEC technology. Excuse me, a little fruit fly in here. We got the latest DEC technology, which is the new 6.0 chips. So we actually have more bandwidth per slot than the old Revo stuff, Chris. So we're even getting higher fidelity out of these microphones per channel. Again, that easy setup wizard, the analyzer. The new batteries are a godsend compared to what we had before. The DSP functionality is just really second to none. And again, you can bypass it for low latency mode, and it's fully Dante and PoE powered for easy integration. So these are some of the examples of where you'd want to use these wireless mics. And we can talk a bit more now that we're done with the presentation about why I prefer wireless mics, why I like having a table mic over any other solution. But again, keep in mind, we do have, again, all 3 options available. So endeth the death by PowerPoint, Chris.
And there you are on your motorcycle. As the screensaver popped up. Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate that. We do have some Q&A. Ladies and gentlemen, please go ahead, start dropping your questions into the Q&A. We will address all of them as much as possible. So let's get going. The first one is going to come from Bob. Bob's asking, what with embedded DSP in the ceiling mics and tables, is the setup process automated? I think you answered that.
Yeah. So again, just to touch on that, with the Adecia solution, part of the process, and we leverage this from the home theater guys. You know, when you buy a Yamaha home theater system, it comes with a microphone you put on your couch and it plays pink noise out of all the speakers and tunes for the acoustics of that room. That's what we're doing in these conference spaces. And yes, you can use the wireless mics, the ceiling mics, or the table mics for that auto tuning process. So they can be used in that auto setup and the acoustic setup of the room.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Jamie asks, communication with the RM-W AP8 is DECT, not Wi-Fi, correct?
Yes. So the microphones communicate to the wireless access antenna using DECT transmission, correct.
Okay. Matthew asks, how does leaving the mic plugged in all the time affect the battery?
So a lithium-ion battery, as you may know from your cell phone, is pretty robust. So I wouldn't be too concerned about running it like that on occasion. I wouldn't do it all the time, but it is a feature we have there available. So yeah, and we do have replacement batteries available. We used to recommend back in the day with the old nickel metal hydrides to upgrade your batteries about once a year, every 18 months. We can go much longer than that now with the lithium ions. So I wouldn't be concerned about using that USB-C charge port at all. Once they're fully charged, they are just running on the battery. So.
Two questions that I have on that. Are the batteries replaceable on these by the consumer or the end user, or is that something that they send back to Yamaha to swap out?
So the batteries are $78 MSRP on our price list. Here's a look at the battery in the bottom of the mic. Once you take the door out, it's a rectangular battery with 4 contacts. You simply pop it out and slide a new battery in and snap the door on.
Awesome. I appreciate that. And USB-C, what happens? And somebody's going to ask, USB-C connected to my laptop, does it turn into a laptop mic?
Excellent question. So yes, that is a big distinction. The only reason we have that USB-C port on there for is charging. That is it. It is only to give a secondary ancillary charging source to the microphone.
There you go. So buy your those wireless chargers and connect them to it and just keep it going.
Yeah, but to flesh that out, that's what the CR does, right? You can take 16 of these mics and have it on a single USB out. That's what this RM-CR does.
Okay, sounds great. Paul asks, can the system be integrated into a full video production configs used in the town halls and municipalities?
Yes, absolutely. No reason why you couldn't. Any application where you'd want a gooseneck microphone, you have the additional ability of it being a wireless gooseneck microphone where you don't have to run a wire. I've been doing room design and conferencing for almost 20 years now. And room design is pretty straightforward for me. When someone says to me, Tim, what is the best audio we can get in this room? It's very simple. A gooseneck directional shotgun microphone right in front of your mouth like I have right now. You simply can't get better audio. When a dignitary or a presenter gets up to speak to a large audience or to anybody, what do? They step up to a lectern with a gooseneck directional microphone, 6 inches from their mouth. And typically we'll look at a room, say it's a 24-person boardroom, and they'll go, well, we can't. Generally, it's budget that moves you away from optimum, typically. We'll say, well, we can't afford 24 channels of wireless mics and 24 channels of DSP. Well, then shift that design to maybe one of our table mics for every 2 participants. I'll divide by 2. So now you need 12 channels of table microphones. But the key for these is the inverse square law. And anyone in audio knows it always comes back to the basics, right? And it's pretty simple. It simply states, anytime you double the distance between an audio source and an audio receiver, like a microphone and your mouth, or a speaker and your ear, anytime you double that distance, you drop 6 decibels. So if I move this microphone that's now 1 foot from my mouth to 2 feet away, I'm going to drop 6 dB in my signal to noise. If I double that distance again to 4 feet, I'm now 12 dB down from where I was at 1 foot. So that's true with any and all brands of microphones, always has been, and is true with other things besides audio as well. But it's a steadfast rule. So when you're designing a room, you cannot do any better than these wireless microphones placed on the table as close as you can get them to your participants. So.
Okay, awesome. Matthew asks, what kind of information feedback can we get about the room acoustics from the mics?
So from the mics, you can do any sort of adjustment within the mic. Like I said, it's got a 6-channel parametric equalizer. As far as feedback from the room, that would really be something you'd be doing with your DSP or with our RM-CR controller. The microphones are simply going to route audio that they're picking up within the room. Now, we can shape that audio within our processor. We can do all of the echo cancellation and noise suppression for air conditioners within our processor. But as far as the analysis, that really doesn't happen at the microphone level.
Okay. Terry asks, Terry asks, is there a trade-in or upgrade from Rebo Labs?
No. So there was some of those programs back in the day, many years ago, but no, not anymore. In fact, there's only a few Revo Labs products left in the arsenal. Pretty much when you're dealing with Yamaha Unified Communications, all of these products are designed and specified and come from Japan. The entire design house is from Japan. What was interesting about this product, and something I learned when I went to our headquarters in 2019, is they built this $100 million innovation center in Hamamatsu on the main campus. And it's a 3-building, amazing facility, the world's largest echo chambers in there. But the reason they did it was to bring all the divisions of audio under one roof. The pro sound guys, the mixing board guys, the speaker designers, the home theater guys, us, the echo cancellation guys, to improve technology across all verticals. So that's where this was born out of. And we do leverage technologies from those other divisions, these platforms. So what you get within the GUI of these mics is a really granular level of control. But again, with the whole Adecia solution, it's that whole automation we're bringing, right? Where it's just a few mouse clicks to set the room up.
Am I correct? Didn't you guys sneak in one of your home, the form factor, one of your home center channels into the commercial space now too, as well? Is it one of your sound bars kind of come from those that particular meetup of home theater meets commercial?
Absolutely. It's our ESB 1090. We did have the ESB 1080. We now have the 1090. In fact, I have that in my house in my living room because there's beautiful ported 4-inch subwoofers within there. It's a phenomenal soundbar, and we did kind of steal it from the residential sound market. So it's home theater type of stuff. I had one integrator go for the $249 MSRP of these things. I think it's $299 for the 1090. Don't quote me on that. Okay. He says we just spec this with every TV because it's phenomenal. When you have flat panels, one of the challenges for flat panels is getting decent audio out of them because of the form factor size and the cabinet size for speakers, right? So yeah, they are phenomenal. It is a beautiful enterprise soundbar 1090. I highly recommend it. In fact, it is one of the options you can actually use with the Adecia solution in place of the line arrays. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up. It's awesome.
Well, you know what? Anytime that there is kind of a residential aesthetic brought into the commercial space, we got to highlight that because we're not known, or the AV world is not known for being pretty or having stuff that looks kind of pleasing. We just are the big, we'll put a big black box or a big gray box in the middle of a room and not care. So it is aesthetically pleasing as well to have it there and sitting underneath the, your TV as a sound bar. So kudos to you guys. Next question comes in from Mark. Mark asks, any issues with compatibility on any of the major video conferencing apps?
Absolutely not. We are ubiquitous across all platforms. Now, our solutions are certified for Teams and Zoom, but we'll work with just about any platform. Out of the RMCR, it's a USB out. Now, for the wireless microphone itself, there's no analog outputs with this, right? We're in the digital age here. It's only 8 Dante discrete line outputs from this system.
Okay. So before I get to the next question, I have a few questions I kind of jotted down while you were going ahead, and I figure it'd probably be a good time to ask these questions. How far can the microphone be from the access point?
Great question. So that comes back to that DECT and why we use it. So DECT is spec'd at 300 feet line of sight, literally like a football field, but that's in a perfect RF environment. Most rooms and applications where we're using these, you generally don't run out of room with DECT. In fact, you can go through a wall. If you put this antenna up high on a wall and you have one sheetrock divider, you'll go through it. You'll drop some range, but yeah, a maximum of 300 feet, but I generally don't design to the maximum distance, right? In a room, you want to have it in the center of the room where you do have line of sight with your mics if you can help it. But that's the beauty of DECT. For years now, we've gone right through a wall with DECT, through partitions, air doors, that sort of thing.
Okay. Next question that I kind of just jotted down too that I have to ask because inquiring minds in my head, the multiple voices in my head are asking this question. Can the wireless system be used for voice lift, within Adecia or third-party DSP?
So within Adecia, if you look at my camera, there's the controller. The only, by the way, that's the one I'm using right now for this conference. The only voice lift we do within the Adecia solution is those XLR inputs right there. So you can bring like 2 wireless presenter mics or a handheld mic. Think town hall, CEO meeting, or some voice lift in the space. But the wireless solution with a third-party DSP, just the 6-inch and 12-inch gooseneck, you can do what's called low latency mode, and it will bypass the DSP and our WAP. So we're basically turning them into just dumb, non-processed wireless mics for you to utilize in a voice lift scenario, but not the Omni and not the tabletop directional. We're only supporting that feature for the goosenecks.
Okay, sounds good. And my last question that I have, as a former designer, somebody who has been designing the spaces, and you start talking about wireless, in having multiple wireless signals and going through the same kind of floor, or one floor on top of the next, can I use separate Adecia systems in several meeting rooms type thing on the same floor? How do you separate them? Is there any type of can anything go? Tell me what can go wrong, or better yet, tell me why it won't go wrong. Tell me that. How's that? I get scared when you start talking about a lot of all these different wireless signals and running through my head. So please help me out here.
No, these are great questions, right? And obviously an area of concern whenever anyone says, hey, it's wireless, that's the first thing that comes to most folks' mind, right? But no, so with the older systems, now the way DECT works, getting back to that channel hopping, there's a very, very precise 100 hertz clock within these systems. And if you had an 8-channel system and an 8-channel system in the same room back in the day, you wouldn't want them changing channels irrespective of each other. Think of musical chairs. You only want one conductor. So what we used to do was run an analog cable between the two. We called it our busing synchronization cable. And then we would set one unit to be the master clock, the 100 hertz clock for all systems. So back in the day, if you had classroom A, classroom B, classroom C, you had to run a wire between the rooms, or if they were all in one rack, you had to run a short wire between the chassis in the rack. Here's the beauty of this system. We now use the Dante master clock of the network to do that synchronization. So now you can synchronize across the network. So no pulling of wires between the systems themselves anymore. So, and just to talk about density, we have a 16-channel card in the Adecia RM-CR processor, so we can support 2 8-channel systems, 16 channels. But you can go up to 32 channels with your own DSP with this system. So that's kind of where we are right now with our mic counts for the solution. But yeah, we have taken into account having lots of systems in close proximity. Now, the second part of that, Chris, is you can attenuate the power levels of these WEPs. I believe there's 5 different power settings within the system. So when you're going out and you're laying out your topology on campus or in your facility, wherever you're at, by utilizing the power meters, the power settings, and utilizing the synchronization, you can get very robust, non-interfering systems in good close proximity to each other. I did a DECT system a number of years ago where it was 800 channels in a headquarters for this company. And we built little islands of synchronization where these rooms were synchronized, and then they were far enough away that these rooms were synchronized. So you do have a strategy with DECT. It's pretty straightforward and simple, but we've been doing this an awful long time. And yes, these systems are designed to be used in rooms in close proximity or with multiple systems in a single space. Now, the only caveat here, if you're doing a 16-channel in a room, make sure you have at least 2 meters between the antennas. You don't want to put the 2 WEPs right next to each other, right? So that's about the only thing you need to watch.
I'm glad I'm keeping you on your toes because I'm just testing you. I knew all this. I'm kidding. Anyway, let's go right to the next question. Dayton asks, I'm creating a test network and I already have a 1G switch working with Dante and QSys. I need to add 10G switch for the video. Which of the 2 10G Adecia switchers will integrate?
So there are 2 switches available from us. One is, I think, here it is. Let's read it. It is the SWR2311P 10G. Now, that's a 10-port switch with 8 fully powered PoE plus ports. Now, be careful. This is a true 240 watts, 8 times 30. I was working with a customer the other day, and their switch they were selecting said PoE plus, and it had 8 ports, but the fine print was only 125 watts, so you had to manage it. It would do PoE and only some plus devices. Those 8 ports of ours are all true PoE plus. So we have a lot of integrators buy our switch, put the camera on there, the control system. It suffices for the whole system generally. But we do have the smaller one that you mentioned. I forget the name of it, but you can do 2 plus devices and 3 non-plus devices. Now, again, interestingly, our ceiling mics and table mics only need 15 watts. This wireless system needs the true 30.
Okay. Mitch asks, is there AAC for the 2 XLR inputs on controller?
That's a beautiful question. So again, like I said earlier, this controller isn't a traditional DSP. The processing's in the mics, except for those 2 XLRs. We have basic echo suppression circuits on there, not full AEC to answer your question, but echo suppressors and full feedback suppression. And these route to the in-room speakers with 0 delay. So the whole premise here is voice lift. And yes, with the 2 echo suppression circuits, you can include those onto the Teams and Zoom calls as well. But in theory, you could plug a mixer in there and voice lift 100 mics into the room. But if you want to include them on your conference calls, you have to keep it to just 2 because there's only 2 echo circuits.
Okay. Thank you. JH, that's what they plugged in there. Can WAP output one Dante channel instead of 8?
No. So just like the old DEC systems in the past used to get 8 analog discrete outputs, most integrators want that. They're going to want that individual channelization within the wireless. So that's why we did it that way. Again, if you need just a summed output, combine it with our CR and you'll get that summed output.
Okay. Matt asks, is there a QSys plugin for Adecia?
No, there's no real plugins for Adecia because it's just so simple and so agnostic to what it's pairing with, right? Again, since we do have that question up, I'll share a screen real quick and show you the back panel of that processor. Come on up. So here is the RMCR. It is really a slick device. There's 4 interfaces in here: Bluetooth, SIP, USB, and line in and out. That's more than enough for most applications you're going to have in these rooms. There's those 2 XLR inputs. Here's where it plugs into my Yamaha switch and gets its 30 watts of power. If you want to do SIP, you could plug that into a SIP switch, an isolated 2-port switch over here on a separate interface from the audio network. We've isolated the audio network. And then you could do out-of-band management with this one if you want. You could also have this go to an SNMP management server. This is fully enterprise class, right? And you can bring your control interface into either one. So you can run your Crestron control or whatever you use into any of these interfaces. If you don't want to use the line array speakers, you can use your own amp and speakers or both. I have a 10-inch powered sub in here. I actually rock out with this system between meetings. And this is Yamaha, right? So there's full drop-down crossovers. I've bi-amped my room. I've got only lows coming to my sub, and I'm sending only highs to my line arrays. And then here's that 4th interface. So again, to recap, you got Bluetooth, SIP, USB, and line in and out. We're plugging these into RoomKit Pluses, that sort of thing. Or in education, we'll do program content in and record lecture capture out. So yes, this box is designed to replace DSPs in what we call those 90% spaces. And the beauty of this is now the wireless is just another extension of the microphone systems that were already available for this system. So,
okay. Dan asks, can the RMR-CR be used in a divisible space and be told by a control system to divide and combine audio routes depending on room partition position?
Man, we've got an audience today. So that is just a phenomenal question. I'm going to pull up a document here. So when you look at the Adecia solution, right, it should be pretty obvious that it's a single space solution. That's really what it's designed to be. And we first got asked that question, Chris, hey, can it do a combine and divide? My first thought was no, and then maybe, and then yes. I got together with some of our field engineers, and my counterpart, I'm going to give him full kudos here, Scott Colton in England, created this diagram and came up with a better way of doing it than I had, actually. Let me shrink this down so you can see it. So what you have is 2 Adecia rooms, a red room and a blue room. You've got a ceiling speaker, which could be a 16-channel wireless, by the way, in this scenario, and you've got your line array speakers. You run the auto-tuning here, and those rooms are done. Then you simply open Dante controller, add an additional Dante route to channel 2 in of this controller, and you plug an RCA cable into the analog speaker out for this room and bleed it over to the aux in of this room. And then these 2 commands are executed from your control system. You turn off the second input and you turn off the aux in. You have 2 separate systems. Then when you open the partition wall, boom, you reverse these commands. You turn on the Dante, you activate this line in, and now you have one big system that is being controlled by this controller plugged into the host PC. So you don't use that controller. And by the way, we only auto-discover 1 pair of line arrays. You can have as many Dante speakers as you want, and you can manually add those. And remember I said our processor can support 4 ceiling mics? You could have had 2 ceiling mics in the red room or 2 ceiling mics in the blue room. And again, 3 weeks ago, I was working with a customer who put our wireless in with this scenario. And instead of running the additional route to channel 2, they brought the other 8 mics into Dante's channels 9 through 16. So you can get this document from us. We sent this to Japan, and they said, wow, that's killer. It's got our full blessing. So this is an official document here. So it shows you a little bit of outside the box thinking with this system of how you can do a pretty basic combine and divide. Now you do have an analog wire, so you got to consider that in your design, but pretty cool stuff.
Agreed. And thank you for that. And for those that, if you missed that, you can always catch it on the replay on our YouTube channel. That's how I do cheap plugs there, Tim. Thank you.
That's how
I'm here for the cheap plug. So go to the Starin YouTube page, rewind that back 2.5 minutes, and you can get that whole conversation. I hope that answered your question, Dan. And as a matter of fact, Dan did answer with sweet. Thank you, sir. Next question in from Michael. Is there documentation available that identifies which Dante channel the unprocessed chat? Excuse me. Is there documentation available that identifies which Dante channel is the unprocessed channel for each device? I have an RM-CG, and I learned from support that it's channel 2. I wasn't able to find that on my own through documentation.
I think because we didn't want you to know it. That was kind of a future channel for some future stuff. We're just going to be starting to use that channel now, so you'll see that kind of added into the documentation. Yeah, we've only been using channel 1 out from the CG, which is fully processed. But we always knew that with future applications like speech recognition, we will need a linear processed out. And I'm going to hint, check back with us next quarter, because there'll be a firmware update with Adecia that is going to start to utilize that channel. So yeah, sorry it wasn't in there, but I think it was kind of on purpose that we just wanted you to use the 1 for now. But that's, again, the beauty of this solution, right? We just added in the wireless mics. We're going to have another firmware update next year. We're going to keep building on this platform. So there's a lot of ROI with this system.
Very, very good. Thank you so much. That pretty much wraps up all of our Q&A. Tim, rapid fire, you handled the pressure pretty well, I have to say.
Well, thank you very much. No, it's a great topic. I love working for this company. It's an exciting time because, like I said, a lot hasn't changed in this UC space. We've seen automation touch just about every other vertical, but now you're seeing this level of automation. The whole premise here with Adecia is, hey, if you can mount these devices, if you can place them out there and connect everything to the switch, you can now go through these setup wizards and get world-class audio without having to be, the world's best audio engineer. If you can deploy an IP camera, you can deploy an Adecia solution.
Yeah, how far it's come in the last, God knows, 10 years, right? Where all this was a lot of programming, a lot of thinking, a lot of, hey, we need to bring in a lot of specialized people to do this sort of stuff to here to where it is today, where, a big chunk, if 75 to 80% of it is done already, pretty much internal to the box, and it knows what it's doing thanks to AI and developments like that. So very, very cool stuff. And I can only imagine what's coming down the line. So that wraps up this town hall. But before we go, where can we find out more information about Yamaha?
So please reach out to your Starin rep or to your Yamaha regional rep, or visit us at uc.yamaha.com. We'd love to schedule demos with you. I could change cameras here, and we didn't even get to do all that Chris and I was hoping to do. It went so fast today. I have mics set up on a table over here. I was going to show you how far we can get away from them and that sort of thing. So please, the point is, engage us. We're happy to work with you and really take it to the next level on showing you what these systems can do.
You got time for one more question?
Sure.
Absolutely. We can do one more. And it's going to come in from Michael. Michael's asking, are these things in stock? How do we not even address the stock issue? It's
Great
2022.
question.
How are we not even talking about this anymore? Tell me, are they in stock?
So everything with our Adecia lineup is in stock. We were short on goosenecks, but come first week of January, we've got another huge shipment coming in. So just short on the goosenecks for a week or two. But other than that, yeah, please get your POs in. Everything's available.
Goosenecks long and short, or
yes,
it was a gooseneck
goosenecks.
issue?
I think we sold 200 systems the first month this thing was announced. So there's a big demand for the wireless, but we're flush with everything else. And come January 1, right after we get through the holidays here, we'll have everything for you folks.
Oh my God. I have a dad joke ready about Christmas goose. And, I'm not even going to go there. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for stopping by. We do have a $50 Amazon gift card to give away. And according to producer Mark, who is spinning the randomator in the background right now as we speak, the winner of the $50 Amazon gift card is Dayton Warner. Congratulations, Dayton. You have won the $50 gift card courtesy of Yamaha and Starin. So congratulations, $50 come in handy, especially this time of year. So where we found out where we can get more information from Yamaha. Where are we going to see Yamaha next? So is the next place, the next big thing going to be ISE? Is that where are you building up to about to drop on me some cool information that there's some product coming down? I mean, this is what we've been waiting for, Tim. You haven't spilled the beans yet.
Well, I'll give you a quick sneak peek. We do have our brand new CS 500 and 800, which is video camera and auto beam tracking microphone bar. Very, very cool stuff. I've got one set up here. I'll change cameras and give you a sneak peek of the 800 here. So what I took off is the little privacy lens that comes with that camera bar. It's a little magnet. Here is the remote. Very cool. You set the remote down on the table and it's a big mute button. Then when you flip it over, it's got all the controls for PTZ and that sort of thing. So let me change to the CS800 camera. And here you go. Here's a wide angle look from our new camera bar. Here is a preset I made that I would probably use during the meetings. And then from the control, you can put it into auto framing mode as well. So there you go, folks. A quick sneak peek at hopefully our next time with Starin will be about this product.
Awesome. You guys hear it. You see it. You hear it first here on the Starin Town Hall. Thank you, Tim, so much for pulling the curtain back on that. We will see, I guess, Yamaha at ISE. At least the Midwich company will have representation there as well. So we'll take a look at what you guys have overseas, and hopefully you guys have some new stuff and we get to see some cool new toys and get to bring it back with us and then show it to the audience. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for sticking around and coming by the Starin Town Hall. This is it's December 2022. Can't believe it's been a year. 2022 is coming to an end. I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday season. If this is the last time we or I see you, I also would like to wish everybody a happy and healthy, obviously, holiday season. But let's get to that end of year strong. If there's anything you guys need to close out those projects, no, do not hesitate. Reach out to Starin, to your local rep, to me if you need. Find me on LinkedIn, find me on Twitter. Let me know what we can do to help. These projects are all closing. A lot of you guys are all, at the 11th hour trying to just shut some things down. We have product in stock. Do not forget that. I am remiss if I don't tell you that we do have a lot of product in stock, everything from Yamaha down the line from all of our other brands, including some of our display manufacturers, projectors, you name it. We probably have it and we can probably ship it out to you ASAP. So do not sleep on the fact that Starin has product in their warehouse. If you guys have any questions, any concerns, reach out to me. I am easily found both on LinkedIn, Twitter, and through email and through obviously the Starin thing. And on behalf of Starin, the Midwich company, we all wish you a happy and healthy holiday season. Until next time, this has been the Starin Town Hall.
Happy holidays, everybody.